Well, here's a video I was planning to make 4 years ago. If you've been watching this channel for a while, there's probably a few things you know about me. One is that I lived in Grand Rapids, Michigan for a while. 4 years, in fact. Another fact is that I do not like BRT. What's BRT? It's short for Bus Rapid Transit. On paper, it's a bus service that's so good it might as well be a train. But since it's a bus, it's cheaper. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, that's what I think at least, and part of that is probably because of my time in Grand Rapids. Michigan's second largest city has 2 bus routes that they call BRT, the Silver Line, which opened in 2014, and the Laker Line, which opened in 2020. I'm skeptical because in my experience, a lot of routes labeled as BRT aren't really as good as planners say they will be. That's definitely the case in GR. So today I'm starting a mini-series about Bus Rapid Transit. We'll start in Grand Rapids, the first city that I've lived in that had BRT. Surprising, isn't it? Next week, we'll look at BRT in the city I currently live in, and finally, we'll end with a review of the first BRT I ever rode that truly impressed me. Will it cure my skepticism, or do the bad examples mean my skepticism has some merit to it? Today, we're comparing the Silver Line with the Laker Line. But first, really quick, we need to ask ourselves, what makes BRT good? Aside from the obvious factor, frequency, the main strength of BRT is supposed to be its speed. The faster the bus, the better it is. Stops slow down buses more than anything else. People take time to climb aboard, they take time to pay their fare. The more stops, the more these delays cascade. So BRT systems have stops that are spaced farther apart from each other, and they have level boarding and payment before you board, all which facilitate all-door boarding and shorter stops. Traffic is another factor slowing buses down, so BRT should run in dedicated lanes, or better yet, a dedicated right-of-way. So with that in mind, without further ado, let's ride Grand Rapids' BRT, and we'll start with the Silver Line. Having opened in 2014, this line runs for about 10 miles from 60th Street up to Central Station downtown. This is what a traditional bus stop in Grand Rapids looks like, but the stations on the Silver Line are more built out. 60th Street is a park and ride. Unfortunately, it's not very heavily used. This is a pretty typical scene. Over in one corner, a new driver is using the empty space to learn how to drive a bus. So this is your typical Silver Line bus station here in Grand Rapids. It definitely has a few advantages over the regular bus stops. I think first and foremost, the giant shelter structure, which keeps the rain and the snow out. And I mean, the passenger information is really good. You've got the route maps on the walls, you've got electronic departure displays hanging from the ceiling. Also, the platform is a little bit raised, so it creates the opportunity for level boarding, and the stations are spaced farther apart than a traditional bus stop here in Grand Rapids, so that is one way that the bus can speed up the trip a little bit. However, there is one glaring issue with these stops. When the Silver Line opened, you could buy a ticket at the station or tap your wave card on the reader before a bus arrived. Then, when the bus came, you could just use any door to get on and the bus could leave quickly. But in 2022, the Rapid abolished this. From now on, you must board by the front and pay by the driver. And the fare machine, which is completely out of use, is in pretty rough shape. So the bus is about to be here. I gotta show you one thing that I've always found confusing about the Silver Line. I mean, this name Silver Line is pretty popular. There's a lot of places that call their transit line the Silver Line. But you'd think that the branding would be the color silver. Well, the bus is about to be here. See for yourself what color it is.
What color is that?
It's green.
Oh dear.
Here's the interior of the bus. If you've been on a Gillig before, you've seen it before. They don't have a cord to pull to request your stop though, because like a train, this bus stops at every station. Did you know that the Silver Line is the first BRT line in the entire state of Michigan? After it was approved by West Michigan voters in 2011, construction began. The budget was $40 million, and they actually completed the project $3 million under budget. Obviously, that's much cheaper than you could build a light rail for. Infrastructure-wise, the biggest investments of the Silver Line were the stations. There are a few lanes that are technically bus-only on weekdays during rush hour. I'm not really sure what the enforcement of these is like. I've seen plenty of cars driving in these lanes when they shouldn't. Also, they function as turn lanes. There's also no signal priority as far as I can tell, and in fact, farther up the line, there's the only dedicated bus signal. A funny thing is that several of the station names have changed since I lived here. MLK Jr. Street used to be called Franklin Street, Trinity Health used to be called Mercy Health, and the old names are still on the maps posted at stations. Those haven't been updated yet. The bigger spacing between stops does help speed up the trip a little bit. For the stops in between, the Rapid runs a supplemental bus route, Route 1. But there is a problem. Route 1 uses different stops from the Silver Line. At intersections where both Route 1 and the Silver Line have a stop, the stations will often be on opposite sides of an intersection. They really should have the regular buses stop at the Silver Line stations. It's just confusing. What if you're trying to catch whichever bus comes first? You might have to cross a busy street. Another issue with the Silver Line is the schedule. The Silver Line runs every 15 to 20 minutes on weekdays and every half hour on the weekends, and it's just not faster than driving usually. The big empty parking lot at 60th Street speaks for itself. Would you go through the hassle of parking your car, changing to a bus, when there's little added benefit? It's just not faster. Unfortunately, being in Michigan, Grand Rapids' infrastructure is completely built around the convenience of drivers. So to make bus rapid transit successful, it needs to serve high-density, walkable areas. There was hope that the Silver Line would bring the economic development that would allow for that. Division Avenue goes through many underserved neighborhoods. And remember, BRT is supposed to be just like a train, but for a lower cost. In this case, it's not. Division Avenue is for the most part an entirely unpleasant place. For miles, used car lots and garages are the only businesses. Grand Rapids has many flourishing business districts, but Division Avenue is not one of them, and the Silver Line could not bring the investment that the city was hoping for. This is where there's a difference between bus and rail. A bus can be rerouted at any time, so it lacks a sense of permanence. Of course, rail could be ripped out, but nevertheless it signals a much more permanent investment by a city. If I was a businessman, I would much rather invest in a place served by a train than a bus. And so the Silver Line has a lot of missed potential. It's not that high quality or fast, it's not well integrated with the existing bus system, and it hasn't brought the economic benefits it was supposed to. That's probably why every time I ride it, I'm usually one of the only people. Anyways, now we're in downtown Grand Rapids. After passing through the medical district, we turn onto Michigan Street, then Monroe Avenue. Here we've joined with the Laker Line, the second BRT route that opened in 2020. Several downtown stations are shared between the two, and we'll take a look at those in a minute, but first let's ride to Central Station. The Rapid Central Station is the main hub for all the routes that fan out of downtown Grand Rapids, as well as two express routes, intercity buses and the Silver Line. While the conventional buses leave from a big island in the middle, the Silver Line has its own little station closer to the building. Central Station's main building includes a waiting area, ticket office, toilets, and a vending machine that sells you printed schedules for $1. Now let's go back and check out a stop that's shared between the Silver Line and the Laker Line. So this is a combined Silver Line and Laker Line station in downtown Grand Rapids, and as you can see there are a few visual improvements. It has the colors of both the Silver Line and the Laker Line, so green and blue. It has LCD screens instead of LED screens showing the departures. These were renovated in 2020 in time for the opening of the Laker Line. And as you can see, the ticket machine here is still active. That's because even though the Silver Line went back to pay when you board, the Laker Line still has you pay at the station, so you can just board through any door. If you're looking for more ways to interact with our content, then good news. You can find us on Patreon and Instagram. We give you exclusive behind-the-scenes looks at the trips we're taking and the videos we're making. And that's not all. Check out the Trains Are Awesome store. To celebrate reaching 50,000 subscribers, we've launched new products. All the links are in the description below. All right, welcome to the second half of the video. I'm at the Lafayette Laker Line station. Today we're going to ride the Laker Line, which is the second newer BRT in Grand Rapids. And I thought, since we're comparing and contrasting anyways today, what better contrast than a snowy January day? Yes, pretty as the snow might look, I'm not sure if I could go back to this. I used to ride the bus, walk, or attempt to bike in this weather, and mad respect for my friends who still do this. So here we are at the Lafayette Laker Line station. This is the first stop on the line. Buses that come from Grand Valley, they go up the street here, there's a little turnaround, and then they stop at this station. The bus should be here in about 5 minutes, so until then, let's go look at what a typical Laker Line station looks like. Lafayette Station is next to a hospital run by Grand Valley State University. I'll explain why this is important in just a little bit. Once again, we immediately notice the fare machine and the card reader. The Rapid lets you use a debit or credit card to pay for all buses, so that's what I did. Soon, a blue Laker Line bus appears. It uses a turnaround just beyond the station and then pulls in. The Laker Line runs about every 10 minutes, making it the most frequent bus route in Grand Rapids. It's also the only route that does not use buses built by Gillig. Instead, the Laker Line uses articulated Excelsior buses built by New Flyer. Between the sizes of these buses and the frequency, you might expect large crowds to use these buses. And you'd be right. Alright, so we're on the Laker Line, these articulated New Flyer buses. They are so sweet. In case you're wondering, if you have to pay at the station, how do they know that you actually paid? Well, I just had my fare checked and I used my debit card, so what I had to do was I had to recite the last 4 digits of my debit card. He checked his machine and sure enough he saw that I had paid. Isn't that so cool? The Laker Line exists to serve Grand Valley State University. This is a large public university with multiple campus locations in West Michigan, and their sports team is called the Lakers, hence the Laker Line. One of the campuses, known as Pew Campus, is located downtown, just on the other side of the river. That's why instead of going to Central Station, like the Silver Line, we turn to the west and cross the Grand River. Our first stop, hidden underneath a dark, noisy highway overpass, is the Pew Campus Station. This station serves as the de facto layover station for the Laker Line, but it's also where most of our passengers get on. The Laker Line connects downtown Grand Rapids and the Pew campus with the main campus of Grand Valley State University, some 12 miles to the west of us in Allendale, Michigan. Students can have classes at both campuses, so the Laker Line acts as a campus shuttle of sorts. In fact, GVSU students can use their ID to ride for free. But the Laker Line serves more than just students. It has several stops on the west side of Grand Rapids, serving businesses and residential areas. After that, it's full speed ahead as we run non-stop towards Allendale and the main Grand Valley campus. I am much more impressed with the Laker Line than the Silver Line. Despite having opened in the middle of the pandemic, ridership is high. I'm not even sure if this qualifies as full BRT since there's no dedicated lanes or anything, but they do get a lot of things right. Service is fast and frequent, thanks in part to things like paying before you board, the buses having a lot of doors, but most importantly, it serves a market with a lot of potential. The Silver Line shows us that you can't just build BRT next to used car lots and expect people to use it, but build it by schools, apartments, restaurants like the Laker Line, and people will ride it. Or you could even offer incentives for people to build those things along your transit line. Grand Rapids has been discussing the construction of a downtown streetcar for years now, and if they ever do, I would hope that the Silver Line is converted to light rail and made a part of it. But the Laker Line, honestly, it's a great product. More buses should be like this. If only they could get the regular buses to stop at the Laker Line stations, I'd say it's a phenomenal product. Soon we're in Allendale, stopping right in front of the Kirchhoff Center, the student union at Grand Valley State University. So we've made it to Grand Valley State University, specifically the Kirchhoff Center station. They also have campus shuttles that are operated by the Rapid. You know, some schools have their own bus systems, but here at GVSU, they use the Rapid to get students to and from apartments and stuff. Let's take the Laker line back to downtown Grand Rapids now, and then I'll share my final thoughts. All right, so we're back in downtown Grand Rapids. We just rode the entire Laker line and the entire Silver line in this video. The big question is, which do I prefer? Well, I think it's already pretty clear from my commentary throughout the video, but I'm definitely a bigger fan of the Laker line. I would not consider the Silver Line BRT. It's not particularly fast compared to the regular bus, and you know, all those arguments about it'll bring a lot of ridership, it'll bring a lot of economic development to the corridor that you hear a lot of BRT proponents argue for, none of that was really realized. Division Avenue still is not a very pleasant place to drive around. A lot of it is just, you know, used cars, salesmen and stuff like that. Now look at the Laker line and you have high frequencies, a really fast service, and it's packed. And I know a lot of those people are college students, but I mean, what an amazing thing to be able to give to college students, a high quality BRT route that shuttles them from the city to campus and different parts of the school. It was good to be back in Grand Rapids. I'm sure I'll make another video out here someday, but for now, please subscribe to Trains Are Awesome if you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching today. We'll see you next time.